In the time since Disney bought Lucasfilm back in 2012, a large subset of the Star Wars fan base has become increasingly disillusioned or even angry with the current state of the franchise. Despite Rogue One being relatively popular, the decanonizing of the expanded universe and the horrible way the sequel trilogy had treated Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and even Princess Leia had left many fans feeling as if the franchise was irreparably damaged. Many have even checked out on it altogether, declaring that Star Wars was in fact dead. But when The Mandalorian premiered on Disney+, there was a new enthusiasm among many fans, and there were many that even found it possible to get excited about Star Wars again. But it was apparent to many that, aside from the usual PR lip service, there was little support from Kathleen Kennedy for the property. She was much more preoccupied with a new line of books and comics called The High Republic, a series of stories filled with the same kinds of politically correct characters and situations that made the sequel trilogy such a disappointment. Soon, it became increasingly clear that there were two camps within Lucasfilm. Two camps that were not only at odds with one another, but engaged in a low-level civil war. Now I know what you're about to say, but Merlin, I keep seeing Jon Favreau saying nice things about Kathleen Kennedy. How can they be at war? Sure, sounds like someone's never seen Entourage. You see, in Hollywood, the words, "let's do lunch sometime," is Hollywood speak for, "you're dead to me, asshole." And additionally, what do you actually think they're going to say publicly? WDW Pro, an insider at Disney, has stated that Lucasfilm is essentially divided into three factions. The employees loyal to Kathleen Kennedy, including the Lucasfilm Story Group. The employees loyal to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. And lastly, there are the artisans, the employees that have been working for Lucas for many years, who just want to do their jobs and keep their heads down. Cameron Pasha, film and TV producer of such shows as Nikita and Roswell, New Mexico, believes this civil war is real.
There's a seismic shift in this Lucasfilm Civil War, which a lot of people have poo-pooed the existence of, which I think is insane. There's definitely...
I know for a fact it's real.
Pasha has a colleague who works closely with Jon Favreau, who told him directly that Favreau hated The Last Jedi and approached Disney offering to help fix Star Wars.
I know for a fact that the Civil War is real in the sense that, as I've said before, one of my close friends is one of Jon Favreau's inner circle crew members who goes with him from project to project to project to project. And he told me directly last year that Mr. Favreau hated The Last Jedi and essentially had contacted Disney himself and said that, "Can I help you fix this? I love this property. Can I help you fix this?"
Some circumstantial evidence that this is taking place is the sequence of events that occurred after the Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian.
The reaction videos that were all over YouTube and social media were from all over the planet, and they were exactly what you're describing. I watched people do their reaction videos not knowing what was coming, and when the green lightsaber came on, consistently I would see people screaming, jumping up and down in their chairs, tears formed from their face, real tears, and they couldn't believe what was happening. I had not watched The Mandalorian at all. I had not subscribed to Disney Plus until I heard that Luke was back, and then I subscribed the next day and I binge watched 2 seasons. Even though I already knew Luke was coming, it still struck me emotionally when it happened.
When fans were thrilled by the reveal of Luke Skywalker, Kathleen Kennedy and her loyalists were enraged, because it made his portrayal in the sequel trilogy look even worse than it already did, and that was an embarrassment for them.
Can you imagine the rage that Miss Kennedy and that group of people felt when they saw that, probably on Twitter or somewhere, and they're like, because I'm sure they're not actually watching the show.
Not long after this, Gina Carano, who played Cara Dune in the show, was fired from Lucasfilm, presumably for an Instagram post she had made. The post was meant to point out that it's wrong and dangerous to discriminate or even ostracize someone for simply having different political views, and that it can lead to some very terrible outcomes. But many of Carano's detractors interpreted this as comparing being a Republican today to being a Jew in the Holocaust. Kennedy had been waiting for an excuse to fire Carano, and when this post dropped, she saw her opportunity.
Hollywood has these red lines on certain topics. World War II issues are certain topics that you can be used politically against you. And then he couldn't save her from the consequences of that, right? But that doesn't mean he wasn't outraged by it. She's his friend. They're obviously friends. You don't develop a relationship like that as just co-workers. Obviously, there's human connection there. And the disrespect, the humiliation on a national and global scale she had to go through, no friend can tolerate that.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that around the same time, Pedro Pascal, the star of The Mandalorian, released a couple of Instagram posts which effectively compared a third of all Americans to Nazis, and didn't get fired, or even talked to for that matter. It may seem coincidental that Carano was fired so soon after the Luke Skywalker appearance on The Mandalorian, but it is perfectly clear to anyone who's paying attention that this was a counterattack by Kennedy against Favreau, whom she believes had defied him, and even worse, made her look bad. This single act by Kennedy all but completely cratered Favreau's future plans for Star Wars, severely impacting The Mandalorian Season 3, the Ahsoka series, and most of all, Rangers of the New Republic, in which Carano is going to be one of the lead cast members. This was not about Gina at all. It was payback against Favreau for embarrassing Kennedy.
And then they saw that when it was released. Could you imagine their humiliation? And then Ms. Carano was their counterattack, because that came out of a pure place of anger of someone that had been slighted.
And the sad thing is, Kennedy didn't care at all about how much this damaged Star Wars as a whole, or Disney's bottom line. There are many in the fandom menace who wrongly blame Favreau for not intervening on Gina's behalf. But insiders have reported that when he got the news, he was absolutely livid. Unfortunately, he was unable to do anything about it.
Because I've heard that he was very, very angry about Gina Carano getting fired. I mean, in fact, I was told that Dave Filoni was overheard in a conversation with Bob Chapek over lunch somewhere, saying, well, you know, if you fire the star of the show, you don't get the damn show. And
because they have to explain why they're not going to do the series. You know, and so it's, of course he was angry. You know, I don't have a direct confirmation. I've never asked my friend who's his crew member whether he was. I just know human nature and know the amount of investment he put into Miss Carano. He chose her. He created the role for her, and he protected her over the last year when she was just being her normal, honest, full of integrity self on Twitter.
According to various insiders, Kathleen Kennedy has essentially already lost this war. While she has not been let go by Disney, she has been sidelined from Star Wars and essentially relegated to only working on Indiana Jones. Likewise, the story group is jumping ship, in one way or another, already on their way out.
Doesn't this shift spell doom likewise for the Lucasfilm story group as it is currently constituted, and all of the kind of Kennedy loyalists in there, or do you think that they're going to stick around?
Well, I mean, I think they've been doomed for quite some time, and I think we've seen them disappear at various moments from Twitter and the internet as various pressures have been placed upon them. I'm sure some of them moved on. I think some of them probably moved on to social media. I definitely know that the Lucasfilm story group has connections to Twitter and other places because they push me out, right? And that's what they'll end up. A lot of them will end up going to social media, which is where their relationships are, because I think they're finished in the film industry.
So you're probably asking yourself, what is the takeaway from all this? What it means, at least in my opinion, is that we shouldn't call time of death on Star Wars just yet. Even though Kennedy is still technically president of Lucasfilm, she has had most of her power within the company taken away from her, and Star Wars is effectively under new management. The High Republic will run its course, but once the planned projects are complete, I predict that that's the last we'll see of that. And I don't think the Acolyte is going to happen either. I predict it'll be delayed, and delayed some more, and eventually it will just never come out. Those of us who haven't completely bailed on Star Wars will have to wait and see what kind of Star Wars content we see going forward. Will it be more shows and films in the vein of The Mandalorian? Or will we get more unimaginative crap like the High Republic? Only time will tell. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like, If you didn't, give it a dislike. Be sure to subscribe and even do that thing with the bell so you know when new videos come out. And remember, everyone, no matter where you're going, there you are.